I'm Nicola Talent, and you're listening to Crime World, a podcast about criminals, drugs, and the sins of the underworld. We're Ireland's top podcast for 2025, and now we've got a new website. So if you want to learn more about crime and criminals, if you want stories, extras, and podcast subscriber specials, go to www.crimeworld.com. So are we actually going to just open the podcast with that little conversation we're having here among ourselves about love heart emojis?
Well, it's just that we have
a group chat, and what's wrong with a love heart emoji?
That just wrong.
Means it's just like a thumbs up in the modern world.
Well, I didn't criticise it. If you look back, I just said I think this is the first appearance of a love heart emoji on the Crime World chat.
On anything to do with Crime World. And I didn't. Who put it up?
On one of the Gen Zers.
Chloe.
It wasn't us.
Yeah, Chloe or NASA. They like their little love hearts. But I understand what it means, guys. I know it means yes or perfect or He's just I need to take him aside.
I'm all into them. I'm full encouragement.
What would the emoji set be for this? Actually, what we're going to talk about.
This would be
this would be sort of rocket launchers. This would be an Iranian flag. US flag.
I think there'd be a teary face emoji for the Kinahans.
There would be a teary face emoji for them. God, we must actually sort of, seriously consider that. Sorry, more glitchiness going on here. So, right, mine has disappeared off my screen again. So you're going to have to start. There has been a report released which actually details the concerns there are in the US about the Kinahans' links to Iran.
Yeah, so the report is done by an organisation called Combating Terrorism, the Combating Terrorism Centre. I suppose there's think tanks all the time producing reports about Iran and all that part of the world. The issue for the Kinahans is this is actually part of the state, the US state. It's an organisation in West Point. We all know West Point from movies. It trains all the officers for the US Army.
Yeah.
And they have this independent group there that is part of the whole state. And they've drawn up a report talking about the links Iran has with criminals and in what must be an uncomfortable experience.
It's the military academy, where all the recruits are trained. And there is a sort of a think tank group there that are producing reports which are sent out, published by the sort of the US government.
The US government, basically. And so
on terrorism risks and what's kind of coming down the line and what should be should be concerned about. And they are actually detailing the Kinahans' links with Iran in this.
Exactly. And what they're also, they put it in the wider picture saying that Iran are using what they describe as criminal proxies to carry out terrorism across the world. In their explanation...
so the report, just before you go into it, is entitled Danger Zone, Terrorism Risk, Theory, Practice and Evolution.
Yeah, and it says, a non-state alliance of significant concern is the Iranian government's increasing use of criminal proxies to conduct attacks in order to maintain plausible deniability. And according to one analyst, over the past 5 years, Iran has conducted 157 foreign operations, of which 22 involved criminal proxies. So what they're saying is this is an overall look of the terrorist threat facing the US. And what they're saying is that Iran is using criminals across the globe to carry out these attacks. Now, they detail a number of them, but very few of them actually get a name check. But they do say from Hells Angels gang members in Canada to the Kinahan Cartel in Ireland, the list of criminal entities Iran is willing to work with is growing. So,
and really, I suppose the reason they're there is largely because of what happened in the Netherlands, which we have spoken about in detail.
Well, it's definitely to do with that, but I'd say it is definitely to do with the MV Matthew as well, because we heard ourselves when that case came to court and the people in charge of the vessel were convicted. Mm-hmm. The guards described in court how there was a significant Iranian nexus to the operation. So, you know, that is not just a line from the US government, that's a line from the Irish state as well. And these things come at a particular time, obviously, when the US is, particularly engaged with Iran. I mean, even this week, Donald Trump was threatening to put troops into Iran and to bomb Iran. So, it's an aggressive US government, if you want, focused on Iran, bombed Iran last year. So the idea that an Irish criminal gang is in league with the avowed enemy of the US state, it can't be a particularly comfortable place for the Kinahans to be.
And last year, Detective Chief Superintendent Seamus Boland actually spoke about, he spoke on the record about the belief that the Kinahans were aligned to these Dutch-based criminals who were working with Iranian crime groups, linked to that assassination of... I'm just trying to find the details of that. I know we have gone back over it,
he was in Iran.
Nobody wants to go back and listen to a previous episode or try and find it. So basically, there was a guy called Niall Fassi who was arrested in a Kinahan safe house in Dublin in and around 20...
It was 28. Was it
17?
Yeah.
Those years are a bit blurred on us now. Anyway, Niall Fassi was a member of Ridwan Taghi's group called the Macro Mafia, based in the Netherlands. Really vicious, violent grouping that had, similar to the Kinahans, been suspected of being behind a load of hits, most of which were on their rivals. But there was one particular murder which sort of stood out, and it was the murder of an Iranian dissident called Mohammad Reza Kolahi Samadi. And he was a 56-year-old who had been sentenced to death in Iran after he was accused of planting a bomb at the Islamic Republican Party's headquarters in 1981, which killed 73 people. But he was living kind of undercover in the Netherlands. And he was sort of shot dead in this fairly ordinary suburb of Antwerp where he was living.
Because he'd been an ordinary citizen since he'd arrived.
Yeah, for years. I think he'd been married and had a job and everything. He was living under an assumed identity. But anyway, he was murdered. And obviously, while, the Dutch authorities realised they really needed to get to the bottom of who had killed them, because they don't want Iran, in the same as Russia do, coming in and assassinating enemies within their territory. So after much investigation, Fassi was identified as being the director of the operation. And given the links with the Kinahans, it was understood that the Kinahans had recruited him as a hitman through their links with the Dutch Macro Mafia.
Yeah, and which was said on the record, I suppose, by the former DEA officer Jack Kelly when he spoke to the BBC. He directly said that Daniel Kinahan was the chief suspect for hiring the Macro Mafia. So that is obviously, and he said that was the intelligence that the US state had. But that's, I suppose, so that shows that's exactly what this murder is, and it says it in this report. While Iranian pragmatism in its use of criminal intermediaries is not a new one, one scholar finds Iran's use of criminal intermediaries now reflects a more structured approach shaped by the modern constraints against it. So, in short, these alliances continue to be sought out for their efficiency, cover and reach. And at another point, it also describes how it's, things like drug trafficking and involvement in that. It's a fundraiser as well for the Iranian government to be allowed carry out these operations rather than trying to move money out of Iran to pay people. So this probably all, as we've learned over the years, we can see this is why the Kinahans, although they're certainly a cartel of global reach, why they became of interest to the US government and why they were sanctioned.
And I have absolutely no doubt, no matter, they might sort of poo-poo the Irish state, the Gardaí, perhaps the NCA, the UK and Europe, Europol, etc. Finding your name in a report like that, coming from a think tank like that now, in the US is not comfortable. And also the fact that people are opening up to speak about them in such a way, because things happen slowly. I mean, I think the first time we would have mentioned the Kinahan's links to Iran, there was nobody on the record talking about it. were sort of ridiculed that you're imagining this is going too far now. The Kinahans links in with Russia as well. But only months ago, Seamus Boland actually said that there's ample evidence that the so-called Macro Mafia have been operating with the Kinahan Organised Crime Group in Ireland, and that the Macro Mafia are groups of various drug gangs in the Netherlands and Belgium who all have links to Iran and Morocco. He said that the arrest of Iranian nationals in a number of operations, in particular the MV Matthew, shows the reach of the gangs into Iran, and that there was a direct link between Fassi and the murder of the Iranian dissident. And he's quoted as saying, "We have him, Samadi, that's our victim, murdered by an organised crime gang, the Macro Mafia, and we see evidence recovered by the investigations teams." This was phone evidence, as far as I can recall, where the organised crime group are discussing this particular murder as to why this man has been murdered. I think the comment that comes back is the Iranians want him dead. Is that Iranian organised crime or what? Roland asks.
So, I mean, it is an interest. Look, the links are there. They're being repeated again and again in the international media. The Spectator magazine, for example, is mentioning Hezbollah and the Kinahans this week as well.
Yeah.
Now, all of this comes at a bad time for the Kinahans, really, because, what's dominating the news? It's the phrase narco-terrorism. It's boats in the Pacific, trawlers. It's the Trump administration vowing to go into countries and bomb them if they're involved in drugs or terrorism. And there's the never-ending focus of the Trump administration on Israel and Iran. I mean, the avowed purpose of Marco Rubio is to protect Israel, who are Iran's enemies. So all of this comes at a bad time.
Storm clouds are certainly gathering, very much so. And we do want to come back at some point soon, very soon, to the goings on in the UAE.
Yes.
And the murder.
A very, very rare gangland murder that occurred in Dubai.
Yeah.
And the incredible strong reaction from the Dubai police who basically got rid of 80 people in the day after.
Yeah.
So storm clouds are gathering there as well.
And I think we really should go back to that and look at that properly, and look at how murder doesn't usually happen on the streets of Dubai, why it doesn't happen, why the Kinahans and others can live there at peace together, and what comes next for them. So we'll definitely go study.
Go study.